Hello, and this is a tutorial series. This is episode 1, What Am I Even Looking At? I will explain what you're even looking at. So to start off, whenever you click New Game, you can check clues between these two. That's not important. And you can choose these countries. And whenever you click this button, you can choose between all these, but this is more of just like whatever, like pre-game stuff that's pretty obvious and self-explanatory. Let's get into the actual thing of things. So to start off first, this menu here is your laws and government. Here you can spend political power, which you can gain passively over time, for permanent changes to your government, such as war economy, conscription, and people. You can also pick national focuses, which are things that take 70 days, and once you click research them, they are complete. For example, if I did aviation effort, I would get 2 air bases in Madrid. Madrid is there. And the next one is decisions. Here's where you spend political power, which I already mentioned, for immediate benefits. For example, if I clicked anti-fascist raids, I would instantly get minus 10% stability, and the fascism support would go down. This is the political stuff. It determines what ideology you are. This is the technology screen. You choose technologies. There's infantry, which can either give you more guns, which you can build, or it gives you immediate benefits up here. There's also special forces, which you can build, if you want to. This is support equipment, things that you can attach to either your infantry or your tanks. They improve your infantry in various ways, such as this gives them bonus entrenchment, and this would make it so your tanks have a chance to capture equipment and reliability increase, and this makes it so that you don't have as many dead soldiers. This is the tanks menu. Light tanks move very fast and don't do a lot of damage. Heavy tanks move very slow and do a lot of damage, and medium tanks are in between. And there are super heavy tanks that are just heavy tanks on steroids. There's artillery. Artillery does damage, generally. There's the regular artillery line, there's the anti-air, and the anti-tank. You can imagine what anti-air and anti-tank do. Anti-air gives passive air defense, and anti-tank makes it so you can kill tanks. I'm turning off this music. I actually like the music in the game, but it's distracting. Where was I? Yes, artillery. So there's anti-air, which gives you passive anti-air defense, and anti-tank, which lets you kill tanks. There's also land doctrines. There's mobile warfare, which helps you with encirclements and generally moving fast. You want to do encirclements anyway, but this just makes it easier. This is superior firepower, which improves artillery and air power. And this is grand battle plan. It makes it so you can build up one plan of attack, and when you execute that plan of attack, it makes your guys much better. This is mass assault. It's basically the Soviet Union strategy of throwing people at the enemy instead of guns, or bullets rather. Each one of these has separate things that you can do as well, which I'll get more in depth to at a later video. This is the Navy. No one really knows how the Navy works, except for that carriers carry aircraft, submarines are pretty good, and destroyers counter submarines. And battleships are just kind of there as well. This is naval doctrines. They work similarly to land doctrines, but for the Navy. This helps battleships, this helps submarines, and this one helps carriers. Very self-explanatory. In these are not choices like it might seem. You can get all of them. This is air. You can either get fighters, which are air superiority and can intercept other bombers. Close air support, which can kill enemy divisions. Naval bombers, which can kill ships. Heavy fighters, which are like fighters but longer range and more expensive. Strategic bombers that can destroy enemy factories. And tactical bombers, which can do close air support things and strategic bombing things, but they're worse at both of those overall. This is air doctrines. There's strategic destruction for strategic bombers, battlefield support for close air support, and operational integrity for tactical bombers. This is engineering. You can improve your science through here and your espionage through here, or you can improve your radio detection over here. There's also nuclear weapons and experimental rockets, which are late game things that you can do to have an extra effect. This is the industry tab. It generally improves your industry. This makes the production efficiency cap go up, which is whenever you build something, the thing gets gradually more efficient at building it, up to a cap. This raises that cap. This is the industry side. Both these make it so your factories and dockyards are better and you can build more of them in each state. This one gives you more just straight up factory output than dispersed industry. This is the choice, by the way. And but dispersed industry makes it so that if you change production from, for example, weapons 1 to weapons 2, you retain more production efficiency than otherwise. Also, it makes them more resistant to strategic bombing. Do I need to explain what construction does? It makes you construct things faster. Resource efficiency gain makes it so that you gain resources, which are here. It tells you what resources are needed in the production tab. This is the synthetic oil line. It lets you build fuel silos, and in this line it makes you get more fuel from oil and refineries in general. And this more specifically makes it so you can build refineries and make it better at oil processing, or you can make it give you rubber if you really want to build tanks but do not have any rubber. This is the diplomacy menu. It helps you sort between nations. For example, there are 2 members of the Comintern in Asia, and there are 1 majors in Asia. Major countries are countries that the game considers to be strong. They're either faction leaders or countries that are actually just very strong. This is the trade menu. Here you can buy resources you don't have to build things more efficiently, because if you do not have the required resources for this, they build them slower and slower until you eventually cannot produce them at all. You have a trade influence with each empire determined by here. For example, my trade value with the Soviet Union is 129. Base 150, distance minus 14, support for communist 3, relation minus 10. Relation, they do not like me because I am not communist. But I am democratic, so for example, the United Kingdom does like me. But I have claimed their territory here in Gibraltar, so they don't like me that much. You can improve relations with people here, but it's more costly if you repair it with other ideologies. It makes it so it costs more political power, which is used for a lot of things already, so that's costly. Also, if you have a ideological crusader, if you improve relations with someone of your same ideology, for example democratic, in the United Kingdom, it will improve it twice as much. This is the construction tab. It's composed of 3 types of buildings. One is state buildings. For example, I can build an infrastructure in Madrid. it will not matter unless, or Galaxia rather. This will not affect the supply over here, but it will affect the stuff over here. Same with anti-air, which will shoot down things, and air bases, which will house airplanes. Factories, on the other hand, are completely different. If I build one thing over here, this same civilian factory will be able to produce something over here. Civilian factories produce buildings. They help you build buildings, such as military factories, which are used for guns, tanks, and planes, and naval dockyards, which are used to produce ships. Also, naval dockyards and ships are not affected by production efficiency. This line is for the synthetic oil and fuel refineries and whatnot. And this is rocket sites and nuclear weapons, which are late game things you can do. And these are province buildings, which are similar to state buildings, but whereas I can build one infrastructure in Galaxia, I can more specifically build forts in every province in Galaxia. For example, if I build one fort in the middle of Galaxia, it will not affect this tile right here at all. Coastal forts make it so that, obviously, if someone attacks you and you're in a fort, you take less damage. Coastal forts are the same as forts, but for naval invasions, and naval bases are things you can build to help you gain supply. For example, if I was right here, cut off from the mainland, but I have a naval base right here, I will still be able to gain supply. But if those were damaged by strategic bombing, or I otherwise didn't have them, they would be encircled, and I would essentially not be able to gain supply over there. This is the production tab. This is where you assign your production. This is the production efficiency I've mentioned before. I believe it can go up to 100%, but it is currently at 50% due to my technologies. This number right here is just a quick way of accessing the logistics tab, essentially. It can be useful for determining which of things you need. For example, I currently need 2 artillery, but 152 infantry equipment. That tells me I don't want to put more military factories on artillery, but rather on infantry equipment. This is the Recruit and Deploy tab. It lets you not only switch priorities between reinforcing your units, upgrading them, or garrisoning, but it also allows you to train units. You can set them at a location to where they can spawn in, or you can not set a location and have them be auxiliary forces that after they train you can rapidly deploy them. You can also edit these divisions, which I will go into what these stats mean in a later video because they are complicated. Also, you can occupy territories. If they're not what's called a core territory in the game, they will resist you to some degree. For example, Equatorial New Guinea likes me 70%. This is a better example. Kingdom of Morocco. They have 29 steel here, but because I am not a core territory there, I'm only able to get 23 of it. You can also release these nations here if you don't want them anymore. Also, you have armies. You can put them in armies, and more broadly, you can put them in army groups. Each army can be assigned, well, I don't have any generals, but each army group can be assigned a field marshal, and each army can be assigned a general, which I will get the political power to get that general just now. Generals and field marshals have traits. For example, this one has inflexible strategist, which gives defense and logistics. And this field marshal makes my entrenchment go up and my reinforcement rate go higher. Oh, also, I forgot to mention something earlier. You can convert factories to the other type of factories. For example, I can convert a military factory to a civilian factory, which will remove a military factory, but gave me a civilian factory. The benefit to this is that it is cheaper. Civilian factories normally are 10,800, but if you convert a military to it, they're only 9,000. So, you can do that to further optimize your economy. However, it is dangerous because you don't want to accidentally just convert all your military factories to civilians, but then a war happens. And you don't want to convert too many civilian factories to militaries because then your economy might die. Furthermore, you can reduce the cost of this from being on something like total mobilization, which will give a further discount to it, making it even more worth it. Up here are alerts. For example, I have unassigned technologies, I have a few dockyards, and I have a focus, unassigned divisions, factories, and things. You click on these, and generally, you want to make sure you use all these. For example, I could just put stuff on, and then they wouldn't be there anymore. Generally, if something's up there, you want to make it not be up there anymore. Because in general, it's an alert, and you want to apply to it to a degree. Up here is the just kind of information tab. It tells you your current political power and your political power gains. I'm currently gaining base from 2 and 1% for stability. Choosing a focus causes me to get -1 stability per day. So you can either choose between getting this focus or between having political power. The focus is generally worth it, but the political power is sometimes useful. This is the stability. It just makes you in generally better the higher it is. So you want to have high stability. More specifically, if people will rebel against you in occupied territories if your stability is low, and you can see the effects right there. Those effects, the positive effects will go up with higher stability, and the negative one will go up with lower stability. Also, if you get lower than 50% stability, the current good things that it's saying about my stability will become negative. This is the war support. Currently, it is exactly even, so you cannot see its effects. But it essentially makes it so that you can mobilize your troops faster. For example, if you go from volunteer only to limited conscription, it will take a few months to mobilize. But if you have high war support, it will go faster. Also, having high war support will make it so you can attack core territory easier. For example, if a civil war were to break out in Spain right now, and I had high war support, I would do more damage. 100% war support gives you 10% attack and defense in core territory. This is the logistics tab. It tells you what things are being produced and how many things are being spent. Spent is not, the balance is not necessarily just your production, it is your production minus training and combat. For example, if I were to exercise these people, which would make them level up and me gain army experience, it would make it so that the balance of this would go down. Also, I mentioned earlier how you can gain levels on your guys. Each individual unit has a level. The higher it is, the more combat strength they have in combat. They will just gain bonus attack and defense, I believe. The manpower is the manpower of your country. It goes up slowly over time, but it's too much to matter in war. So if you have really low manpower, you would want to go up a conscription law, which can eventually have bad consequences because if every person in your country is in the military, there's no one in the factories, which is not very good if you're trying to produce tanks, or anything rather. This is your current factory count. You can see other people's current factory count by clicking the Details tab. You can access the Details tab by clicking a province they own, clicking here, and then that. I realized I did it too fast the first time, so I did it again. This is the fuel you have. It is based on your oil and your fuel technologies. It matters if you are building tanks, or ships, or planes. All of those need fuel. Motorized equipment also needs fuel, and so does mechanized. These are your convoys. Convoys are sometimes used in trade. For example, if I were to buy 3 aluminum from the United States, I would need 15 convoys. I have enough for that, so I could. But it is generally not a good idea to buy something you do not need. This is your command power. It is used for 2 things, and 2 things only. One is that it's used for giving your planes more efficient things in their zone. With this. Or it can be used to promote generals into field marshals, if you do not have one. Your army experience can be used to create variants of tanks. I do not have any tanks, and you cannot create a variant of a gun. But if I had a tank, I would be able to show you. You can create variants of planes with air experience as well. Experience is used to create variants, or if you have 100 of it, you can make these doctrines go faster. Also, units can strategically redeploy, or they can just regularly move. Strategic redeployment makes it so that they move faster but lose organization, whereas the other one makes them lose less organization but move slower. The longer a unit stays in a province, it will entrench. An entrenchment makes it so that you will gain bonuses on the defense. And if they are assigned to a plan, such as this, the longer they're assigned to that plan, they will gain plan bonus. You can also disband units and put them back into your supply of equipment. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, your war support also determines how high you can have your conscription laws and economy laws. And free trade, or rather, trade laws in general, affect how many resources you can export. For example, if I'm on free trade, it's 80%. In this game, exporting a resource basically makes it go onto the market. For example, I'm currently exporting 38 steel, which removes 38 steel from my supply, and if someone wanted to buy it, let's see if anyone buys it for comparison. They have not. No matter. If someone buys it, they will give you a civilian factory. If they do not, it is wasted steel. Generally, if you have resources you do not need, you go to the highest possible one. Also, the higher you have your trade, you have other bonuses, such as factory output, research speed, and construction speed. Also, there are views over here, which can view states and the general economy of that state. For example, Africa isn't terribly prosperous, but Europe is, and supply areas, which tell you the supply of your units. For example, I have a few units over here, so it's 3, but I don't have any units over here, so it's 0. If the supply goes over the maximum, your units start receiving penalties. Resistance and compliance is based on other stuff. Resources shows you which provinces resources have. For example, if I were to invade Portugal, they have 210 tungsten. I could use that to build artillery, for example. The diplomacy map view is just a quick way of showing which people like you. Everyone is currently neutral towards me because I don't have very many relationships. The factions mode shows you the factions. For example, there's the Allies, and the Axis, and the Comintern. The player's map view is only used in multiplayer, and it tells you people's names. For example, I named myself Poland Guy because I play Poland sometimes. Infrastructure shows you the general infrastructure of the area. So if you're wondering what the supply is going to be like when you're running into an area, you can judge it by the greenness of this map view. For example, this would not be the nicest place to invade just because of the infrastructure. This would be though. Population shows you the population. For example, there's a bunch of people there, and really here. But there's almost no one like in the Siberian wastes up here. Ideology shows I am democratic, they are fascist, and they're communist. The terrain is used in warfare, and it will show you the terrain, although that's not the efficient way of looking at it. You would much rather just click on the province, and it will tell you what type of terrain it is there. There are 3 further map views you can do, between Army, which is standard, Navy, which is special, and Air Force, which is pretty important. That should be enough for this first video. Oh, also, you can click the minus and plus button to make the speed over here go up and down, and you can just click space to unpause it. And this is the world tension. It's used to determine how tense the world is. For example, right now it's 0%, so if I invade someone, no one will care. But if it's at 25%, then I invade someone, then the United Kingdom will get mad at me and attack me. Anyway, that should be enough for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and there will be a next one.